Shalom. I'm Rabbi Nathan Davidovich speaking to you on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. This particular Shabbat is called Shabbat HaChodesh, the Sabbath of the month, because we read, in addition to the regular Torah reading, we read Parshat HaChodesh. God tells Moshe, God commands, he says, HaChodesh hazeh lachem, Rosh Chodashim, this month of Nisan shall be the first of the months of the year. This is the very first commandment that is given to the Jewish people. There are other commandments before that, which are general commandments for Bnei Noach, the children of Noach, non-Jews. The 7 commandments of Bnei Noach, but this is the first commandment directed to the Jew, and it's interesting that this was given, as it says in the Torah, in the land of Egypt. This commandment, among many other things, teaches us that as Jews, we have an obligation to put holiness into time. So many people look only at the materiality of things. People think that only places can be holy. But the holiness of places is dependent upon the holiness that we put into time. For example, the Torah was given on Mount Sinai. Nobody really knows where Mount Sinai was. And those that think they've identified it, it's not a place of holiness. The holiness was only at that time. But by putting holiness into time, we begin to recognize that every moment is precious. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, in his book, The Sabbath, talks about the sacredness of time against space. And he points out that many human beings are obsessed with mastering, building, controlling space, material things. But he points out that the Jewish people have a religion, Judaism, which is a religion of time, focusing on the sanctity of each moment. And he goes on to say that unlike people who are consumed with creation of space, to whom all hours are alike, there's no difference. There's no difference in the quality of one hour or the other. They're empty shells. But the Torah teaches us the diversified character of time. There are no 2 hours that are alike. Every hour is unique. And the only time given at that moment, it's exclusive and therefore endlessly precious. You know, the Talmud talks about the significance of time in such a manner that even the greatest sinner in one moment of time can completely do tshuva, completely repent, and will be accepted. Every moment of time is holy. He points out, Rabbi Heschel points out, that in Judaism we attach holiness to time by our holidays, by the Sabbath, to sacred events. He said we learn how to consecrate sanctuaries. And he says with regard to the Shabbat is our great cathedral. And he points out that the seventh day, which is Shabbat, is like a palace in time with a kingdom for all. It's not a date. It's not merely the seventh day of the week, but it's a different atmosphere. When you go into Shabbat, you're not the same as the weekday. You go into a period of time that is completely elevated. We are within the Shabbat, he says, rather than Shabbat being within us. And there's no difference between the physical structure of things. Things don't change. It's only the dimension of time in relation to the whole universe of God. The Shabbat is given to the Jewish people as a sign of the love between God and the Jewish people. And Rabbi Heschel points out that the meaning of the Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. He says that 6 days a week we live under the tyranny of things of space. On the Shabbat, we try to become attuned to holiness in time. It is a day in which we are called upon to share what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. In this week's Parsha, in addition to Parsha HaChodesh, the regular Torah reading are the last two chapters in the book of Exodus, Vayakhel and Pikudei. And Vayakhel has a commandment that teaches us the importance of using our time properly and not to use our time for anger. It says in Vayakhel, the Torah commands us, Sheishes Yamim Ti'asim Melacha, you shall work, do your work for 6 days. U'v'yom HaShvi, on the seventh day, it shall be a holy day for you. It shall be Shabbat. Lo Savaro Eish V'chal Moshvosech, you shouldn't carry fire anywhere in your dwellings. And the Chassam Sofer says that the great blessing comes to us because of Shabbos. And he says what the Torah is teaching us. Lo savaro eish b'chol moshvosechem. What is eish? Eish, fire, is a symbol of anger. We shouldn't be angry on Shabbos. We shouldn't be angry going into Shabbos. There's a great tendency on Friday, as we get close to Shabbos, there's a tendency for people to be stressed. Are we going to get it done in time? And husbands and wives are stressed between one another. Children are stressed. That's the worst thing. That's what the Satan wants us to do. Wants us to be stressed. Wants us to be angry. Anger takes away from the holiness of the time of Shabbat. So when we look at Shabbat, we have to realize that it is not a time for anger. And just as it says, 7 days you shall work, not only should you work on Shabbat to refrain from anger, but all the 7 days of the week you should work to refrain from anger, because anger destroys that moment in time. It is important for us to remember what we can achieve in just one moment of time. And that's what the Torah is telling us in Parshat HaChodesh. To sanctify time, to recognize the importance of every moment. And if we recognize the importance of every moment, we will give greater thought to wasting time. Because the time that you waste cannot be recovered. I thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom, a Shabbat of peace, a Shabbat of light, and a Shabbat where we put the holiness of Shabbos into our very consciousness and into our very actions. Shabbat Shalom.